You walk down the most exclusive shopping streets in the world. Fifth Avenue, the Champs, Élysée, Ginza. You see Louis Vuitton, Dior, Givenchy, Tiffany and Co, Fendi, Bulgari. You think you are looking at fierce competitors battling for the wallets of the ultra-wealthy. You are not. You are looking at an illusion. Behind the glowing storefronts, the velvet ropes, and the thousands of dollars charged for a single leather bag, there is no competition. There is only one man and a $400 billion machine designed to monopolize human desire. This is not a story about fashion or the delicate craftsmanship of a silk gown. This is the story of the most ruthless corporate consolidation in modern history. This is how Bernard Arnault built LVMH, becoming the richest man in the world by turning luxury into a blood sport. The fashion industry wants you to believe in the lone genius designer, sketching in a Parisian atelier. Bernard Arnault saw something completely different. He saw fragmented, poorly managed family businesses sitting on a gold mine of centuries-old heritage. He realized that if you strip away the romance, a luxury brand is just a monopoly on a name. His ascent did not begin with a needle and thread, but with a calculated, merciless corporate raid in the 1980s. Arnault was a real estate developer who noticed a bankrupt French textile conglomerate called Boussac. Buried inside its rotting corporate structure was one pristine, glowing asset: Christian Dior. The French government was desperate for a savior to preserve jobs. Arnault promised to keep the empire intact. He secured the company for a fraction of its worth, putting down just $15 million of his own money. The moment the ink was dry, the promises vanished. Arnault ruthlessly carved up the company, selling off the textile mills, firing nearly 9,000 workers, and stripping it down until only Dior remained. It was a brutal execution, earning him a nickname that would follow him for life: the Wolf in Cashmere. But Dior was just the appetizer. Arnault realized that to truly dominate, he needed scale. He needed a fortress. In 1987, two French titans agreed to merge: the champagne giant Moet Hennessy and the legendary leather goods house Louis Vuitton. They formed LVMH to protect themselves from takeovers, but the CEOs of the two companies despised each other. Their boardroom was a war zone. Henri Racamier, looking for an ally to oust his rival, invited the ambitious Bernard Arnault to invest. It was the greatest mistake in the history of luxury. Arnault didn't just invest. He weaponized their hatred. He secretly amassed shares in LVMH. He played the executives against each other, watching as they exhausted their resources in bitter infighting. When the dust settled, Arnault didn't side with either of them. He launched a sudden, hostile takeover, bought a controlling stake, and threw both executives out on the street. In a matter of months, the invited guest had stolen the entire house. He was now the undisputed king of LVMH. With the foundation set, Arnault unleashed a playbook that would forever change the economics of the world. He understood luxury is fundamentally irrational. Nobody needs a $5,000 handbag. You are buying status, history, and the perception of scarcity. Arnault's genius was industrializing that perception. He bought struggling heritage brands and plugged them into the LVMH matrix. The strategy was brilliant and brutal. Centralize the back end. Accounting, legal, real estate, and supply chains were all consolidated to ruthlessly cut costs. But the front-end storefronts remained fiercely independent to maintain the illusion of distinct, artisanal houses. He then hired shocking, provocative designers to inject massive hype into these dusty brands. Once demand skyrocketed, LVMH cranked up the prices. They controlled the supply, the retail space, and squeezed margins until they bled cash. The independent brands simply could not compete. If they tried to buy prime retail space, LVMH would outbid them. If they tried to secure the best leather suppliers, LVMH bought the tanneries. The industry was a scorched earth monopoly. The wolf in Cashmere was never satisfied, and his appetite led to the most spectacular corporate wars the financial world has ever seen. The most infamous was the battle for Gucci in the late 90s. Gucci was soaring, and Arnault wanted it. Instead of a direct approach, LVMH secretly bought Gucci shares on the open market, employing a creeping takeover. They amassed a massive stake before Gucci's management realized they were under attack. It was a financial ambush. Gucci's CEO fought back with equal savagery, creating a poison pill defense and diluting stock. He then invited a white knight to save them, Francois Pinault. What followed was a bitter, years-long legal bloodbath. Arnault eventually lost Gucci, but walked away with a massive profit. He learned a valuable lesson. Next time, the ambush needed to be quieter. This led to the stealth attack on Hermès. Famous for the Birkin bag and fiercely protected by its founding family, Hermès was the crown jewel. Using a complex web of equity swaps, LVMH secretly accumulated a 17% stake without triggering regulatory disclosures. When Arnault announced his position, the family was blindsided. They realized the wolf was inside the gates. In a desperate bid for survival, 52 descendants pooled their shares into a holding company, legally binding themselves together to prevent Arnault from picking them off. It was one of the few times the wolf was repelled, but the audacity sent a chilling message. No one is safe. Even a global pandemic couldn't blunt the ruthless machinery of LVMH. In late 2019, LVMH agreed to buy the American jeweler Tiffany and Co for $16.2 billion. Then, retail collapsed. Instead of honoring the original deal, Arnault used the global crisis as a weapon. He claimed Tiffany was mismanaging the pandemic and threatened to walk away entirely, sparking a vicious legal battle. The financial industry watched in shock, but it wasn't about walking away. It was about raw power. By dragging Tiffany through the mud, Arnault forced them back to the negotiating table and slashed over $400 million off the purchase price. It was a masterclass in extreme leverage, proving sentimentality does not exist in the LVMH empire. Today, LVMH owns 75 distinct, globally recognized brands. They control the champagne you toast with, the perfume you wear, the watch on your wrist, and the luggage you travel with. Bernard Arnault sits atop a sprawling empire built not on the delicate art of fashion, but on the cold science of relentless market domination. The brilliant deception of LVMH is that it sells you individuality, meticulously crafted by a corporate machine designed to absorb everything in its path. The heritage houses you idolize are merely assets on a spreadsheet, acquired through hostile takeovers, stealth equity swaps, and shattered promises. The next time you walk past those glowing storefronts, look closer. The mannequins are wearing different labels, but the strings are all being pulled by exactly the same hands. The game of luxury isn't about out-designing the competition anymore. It's about buying them out, shutting them down, and making sure the money only flows in one direction.